So it's only a couple of weeks until Tim Cook and his Cupertino clan swagger onto a stage and pretend like they came up with a whole new set of phones, packed with features that, yeah, they most definitely invented themselves.
No, sir, I didn't cop a look at Google's test paper and crib everything off of there. Honest, sir. And no, sir, I don't smell of fish. That was Samsung, sir. He went and poured tara masala down the back of my trousers.
But as usual, Timmy may as well just skip the pointless 2-hour extravaganza of brainwashing marketing spiel and put his feet up in front of Emily in Paris, because there's very little we don't already know about these exorbitant pocket-stretching wallet drainers. And no, perhaps surprisingly, that's not because of the incredibly insightful Apple exec interviews as conducted by their specially hand-picked band of phone and ring slurping influencers. No, it's because the iPhone 16s haven't so much leaked as gushed all over the internet well ahead of launch, kind of like the tech equivalent of that scene in Stand By Me. So here's the full skinny on the iPhone 16, the 16 Plus, Pro and Pro Max, after a brief bit of award-winning jingle action. Techspert Weekly! Now, from all of the leaks we've seen so far, it appears that Apple has actually changed up the design for the iPhone 16 and the 16 Plus. So yeah, it no longer looks like the iPhone 15, or the iPhone 14, or the iPhone 13, or the iPhone 12, etc, etc, you see where that one's going. No, instead it looks just like the iPhone 10, or the iPhone X to use its proper name, as we don't live in ancient f***ing Rome. I don't wear a toga, and I don't get my kicks by watching a lion chomp the arse off of hapless Christians. Nope, it's the 21st century, I wear multi-pack t-shirts from H&M, and of course we've got the internet. So naturally I get my kicks by streaming your mum's OnlyFans channel, at least until she does that thing involving a hosepipe and funnel, 10 gallons of prune juice and an eager Dutch lad called Eric. And it seems like the only real difference between the iPhone X and the iPhone 16 is that the flash has been somewhat awkwardly cast aside and made to stand over there somewhere, kind of like me at school whenever we played sport. But of course the iPhone 16 Pro models have more camera lenses than the plebby normal ones, and so stick with the exact same square bump as before. Nothing like a bit of consistent design language, eh? The iPhone 16 and 16 Plus will stick with a basic aluminium frame, while those Pro models get to swank it up a bit with some titanium. And all the new iPhones will have a matte glass back, with a choice of colourful designs for the non-Pro blowers. Sadly, those Pros once again serve up a colour selection that's roughly as exciting as watching paint dry if you absolutely can't stand paint, and you're also blind. So Pro's looking pretty familiar then, but one thing that has actually changed for them is the size of the buggers, because the iPhone 16 Pro has grown slightly to 6.3 inches, while that iPhone 16 Pro Max has ballooned to apparently 6.9 inches. So if you decide to go Pro Max, you'll have to get used to squeezing something into your trousers that's roughly the same size as Winchester Cathedral. Good thing then I'm already used to that, ladies.
Nah, lies, all lies. You'd have room to swing yours inside of a f***ing matchbox.
That action button from the previous Pro Duo should now be stuck on the side of all 4 iPhone 16 models, so you won't have to spunk up a grand or more for what is basically a shortcuts button that can quick launch the camera, switch on that poor old ostracized camera flash, etc, etc. And apparently the full set of iPhone 16s will also house a fresh new button known as the capture button, which will be sat over on the opposite edge just beneath the power button. Button, that's a weird word, isn't it? Button. Button, button, button. And this should operate in much the same way as the camera button on Sony's Xperia smartphones. So basically lightly press it down in order to focus and then push it all the way down to take a photo, and you might even be able to swipe left and right in order to zoom in and out. Very posh. Speaking of those cameras, well, in a completely shocking move that will undoubtedly require many changes of pants, Apple has apparently stuck with the same 48MP main shooter as before, but that basic 12MP ultra-wide angle sensor has been replaced with another 48MP effort for improved low light snaps. And as usual, the Pro models will stand out from the bog standard iPhone 16 blowers with a sexy bit of telephoto lens action, this time offering an upgraded 5x optical zoom across both handsets. And some rumours even point to a fresh new super periscope zoom lens with a focal length of 300mm or greater. Pretty sure that'll turn out to be more bollocks than the average sausage roll. As for those displays, well, these could possibly use micro lens tech to help boost the brightness a wee bit. But apart from that, it's apparently the same screen tech as before, complete with that familiar floating turd nestled up near the top end, which when you go full screen for gaming or watching movies, is about as welcome as an actual turd in a swimming pool. Oh, and the non-Pro iPhones will still max out at 60Hz refresh rate, despite costing the best part of $1,000. Good times. Still, if you only fancy selling a single kidney to upgrade to the regular iPhone 16 or the 16 Plus, there is some good news because Apple is no longer just slapping last year's chipset on these flagships. Instead, even the plebby basic entry-level iPhones are apparently being blessed with a fresh bit of Apple A18 action, albeit a slightly pared down version to what you'll get with the Pros. Now, apparently the Pro and the Pro Max will have a beefier MPU to cope with more AI-type chicanery, although they'll also only have 8 gigs of RAM, so that kind of limits how much on-device shenanigans they can get up to. And definitely don't expect anything on the level of Gemini, which you get on Google's latest blowers. Let's face it, Siri is still going to be about as helpful as a chastity belt in a brothel. You know, the iPhone 16s will possibly be able to write a generic reply to a message on your behalf if you can't be asked to move your finger a few millimeters or you're just too bladdered to focus on your smartphone screen. And personally, I just hope that it's smart enough to actually work as a phone when I'm traveling abroad, considering my iPhone 15 Pro Max still can't handle roaming in Europe. It's like the Nigel Farage of mobiles, just can't stand any of that foreign stuff. And all 4 iPhone 16 models should also benefit from improved coolant through a sexy bit of graphite layering. And last up, here's some leaked battery capacities, a very slight improvement for all but the Plus model, which actually suffers from a battery downgrade. Yet more reason to hoy more cash at Apple for a Pro, eh? Or even better, say f*** it and buy an Android. But what about that iPhone 16 Ultra that all the leakers were banging on about months and months ago? Well, it appears that like the Apple Car and the Apple Fleshlight, either they're high fantasy or Apple just couldn't get it working. Maybe next year, eh chaps? And it looks like Timmy C and his merry band will take to the stage on September the 10th to officially waggle about the fresh new iPhone 16s. So you should be able to actually get your mitts on one roughly 2 weeks after that, assuming you've yanked out all of Grand's gold teeth. Maybe sold off a couple of your least favourite offspring in order to afford one. Oh, and Tim, if you are watching, buddy, still haven't received my invite. Sure, it's just a little mix-up. You might want to just check down the side of your desk or something like that. Just slip down there, probably. But anyway, what do you reckon, kiddies? Let us know what you think of Apple's latest scheme for mugging its fan base down in the comments below. And now it's time for the part of the show that's like a floating turd in my own particular swimming pool. It's bit of viewer comments. Viewer comments. Let's start this week with Chris Johansson. You read Chris, who says, doesn't say that, sorry, I apologise. I've lived in Australia for 5 years now and I've only seen one 15cm long spider in my bedroom, but it was a huntsman, which is the kind that eats other spiders, so the other ones are really good at hiding. You see, the fact that there's an Australian spider that exists that scares the living out of other Australian spiders, that's kind of like a serial killer that's so evil that he makes Jeffrey Dahmer his pants. Just absolutely not for me, ta very much. Cypher Ajibola says, I think the people who watch this are the true fans of the channel. Very refreshing after a whole class of computer logic, XX bar, and logic circuit jargon. I mean, Christ mate, it sounds like sitting alone in a dark room and slapping yourself repeatedly in the face would be very refreshing after all this techie bollocks. Yeah, fair play to you, mate. Next up, Tom Newell says, Uncle Spurt is always inspiration for a weekend of drinking. Well, I mean, yeah, if nothing else, I can at least say that I'm inspirational in the same way that angel dust inspires some people to eat their own vomit. Flaterra says, this is unwatchable garbage. Cut the allegory and useless comparisons and stick to the facts. And cutting half the diarrhea rant would not hurt either. That's probably one of my better reviews so far. But I'm sorry, Fluterra, the diarrhea is all staying in. Somewhat ironically, in fact. Anyway, last week's show, was it last week? Or was it the week before? No, it was last week, wasn't it? Time flies when you're f***ing drunk. I banged on length about the fresh new Google Pixel Watch 3, which I'm still hoping to review at some point. No sign of a sample just yet. But anyway, lots of correspondence naturally. So void5151 says that 1 mAh battery size improvement is definitely worth the $500 asking price. They should have increased the price to $1,000 and added some AI chatbot integration and called it a day. Slightly less sarcastic but no less impressed is Zoazda, who says, I love Pixel but Google should invest a bit more in the battery department. While Cronchris1486 says, here's my guide to decide on whether a smartwatch is something I might consider buying. Do I have to charge it daily? Yes, I'm out. Yeah, I mean, improved battery life, certainly absolutely top of my list, and I'd imagine most people's lists when it comes to smartwatches. Like, even when I'm stone cold sober, which does occasionally happen, I struggle to remember to plug in all of my various electrical devices, so I don't need a bloody another one to worry about. I'm still waiting for one of those miracle wireless charging posts that you bung in your house and it charges up all of your electrical stuff over a distance. So you can charge your phone when it's stuck in your pocket, you can charge your watch right there on your arm. I remember writing an article about it about a decade ago, I think it was, when, manufacturers were insisting we weren't too far off it. The problem is, of course, that wireless charging over any kind of distance is hideously inefficient. So you'd have to really ramp the power right up for it to actually be effective, and then we'd all be walking around like that guy in a razor head. Or rather, yes, people with actual hair will be walking around like the guy from Eraserhead. I just have to contend with the pube equivalent. Be walking around with what looks like a paintbrush sticking out of your flies. Sneeze and Eagle says, a good improvement but still work to do. Hopefully number 4 will be the one I buy. 4th time lucky from Google? Well, we'll see. And Mark Tomei says, the biggest upgrades are the brighter screen and morning brief. I don't see why they can't bring morning brief to the Pixel Watch 2. Are they absolutely definitely not rolling that shit out to older Pixel watches then? Because yeah, as you say, there's no real reason why they can't, surely. If they're not retrospectively? If they're not adding that shit in, then frankly, that's just bollocks. Steve Hornsby offering up a good alternative. I'm using the Huawei Watch GT4. With everything on it, I get a week of battery life. And likewise, rip-offy UK says, the watch is amazing, but its battery life is so bad the engineers should be sacked. Sorry, but battery life is my one tech bugbear. My Huawei is at least 7 days with all of the features you need. Yeah, so those Huawei watches, obviously they've got basic notification support and you don't have the full Google integration, which is a shame, but they do quite a lot of the smartwatch shenanigans you would need, and with battery life that isn't total trouser. And incidentally, full reviews of those Huawei GT watches available right now on TechSpert. And another good recommendation from RGF1998, who says, unless your head is crammed right up Google's ass, the OnePlus Watch 2 kicks all of Pixel's watches' asses. I mean, yeah, with that thing, you get several days of battery life thanks to the dual chipset and dual OS design. It's just absolutely clever bollock stuff, it really is. And also the Oppo Watch, basically the same as the OnePlus Watch, just slightly different branding, obviously. And the Bismarck says, I don't think I could ever switch to a Pixel Watch no matter how good it looks for the simple fact of my cack-handedness. The bezel of my Galaxy Watch 4 Classic is absolutely bruised and scratched up. Yeah, same mate. You may have noticed that I have the habit of waving my arms around like I'm trying to swat a bloody mosquito or something. I went and scratched up my original Pixel Watch pretty quickly, just from exactly the same, just banging it off stuff, basically. The only reason my Pixel Watch 2 is still looking in pretty good condition is because basically I stopped wearing it after doing the review. And next up, Son of Sam Waters says, Dear Sperty, as someone who suffers from sleep apnea, you've said a few things that makes me think that you do as well. Get it up to pee frequently, snoring, low O2 readings on previous watches. Please get yourself a Well-U O2 ring and see what your actual O2 levels are at night. Good for your health and good content for the channel. Well, thankfully my SpO2 levels are generally reported as absolutely fine and normal on most smartwatches that I've tested out. It's only the bloody Samsung Galaxy Ring that reckoned I was on the verge of slipping into a sodden coma. As for the snoring and the excessive night pissing, that's 100% down to the boozing, I'm afraid. Alan Queen says, why throw shade at Zach? Zach. Which Zach was I throwing shade at again? Oh, Zack Snyder! Yes, of course, good old Zachy. Why throw shade at Zach? I mean, did you see Rebel Moon Part 1? Because I bloody did. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather knit myself a scarf out of James Corden's pubes than watch Part 2. I'm sorry, there's been an awful lot of pube chat in this one, hasn't there? Well, Flutera will not be impressed. Andrea Sakura says, I've got my eyes on the Xiaomi 13T Pro and the Honor 200 Pro. Which one would you buy? Well, both solid smartphones with strong specs, certainly. I think you can get the 13T Pro at a bit of a discount right now because, heads up, Xiaomi should be launching the successor to it in just a month or so. So you might want to maybe hold on for that, or just grab the 13T Pro at a discount. Etienne Sharp says, speaking of insanely strong booze, have you tried Strong Zero? I had some in Tokyo and it was about £1 a can at 9% ABV. I have not tried that particular one, but at least with a name like that, you know what you're getting. You know it's not going to be f***ing about. Rango Django says, hopefully by this time next Friday, Leeds have re-signed Jack Clark back from your beloved Sunderland. You bloody need him as well, probably more than we do even. Caitlin Christian says, meow meow, with a cute little cat face there. Very adorable stuff. Okay, I'm already 5 minutes over, so I'll make these last couple of comments. Mythic Sun says, as the guy who got the whole ice cream bowl rolling, I will willingly try the Tiger Tail ice cream if I can find a small tub of it in the UK. For anyone who missed it last week, Tiger Tail ice cream is apparently black licorice and orange mixed together. I'm sorry, but that could absolutely just get in a skip. And then take that skip and dump it in the sea. And just take the entire sea, put it in a cannon and fire it into the sun. And last up, Bonus Baby 801 says, unlike Uncle Spurt, I like a bit of black licorice, but in orange flavoured ice cream, I don't know about that. But I do like fried spaghetti though. You know what? That is a bloody good idea. Like crispy spaghetti sticks that you could snack on the go. You could package them up just like that Pocky Candy stuff. I'm absolutely patenting the living bollocks off of that. Sorry, Bonus Baby. Anyway, massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Apologies if I didn't quite get to yours, but please do smash your comments down below on literally whatever you fancy, and we'll get away through as many of those as possible next weekend. Speaking of next week, next week, what the f*** is next week? Well, I hope you're not completely sick of pixel-shaped shenanigans, because my Pixel 9 Pro review should be going live next week. Got a couple of other bits that I've been working on as well, and of course there's E for the week after that. So loads of techie bollocks coming right at your face over the next fortnight. In the meantime, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell to be the first to hear about all that shiny shenanigans. And have yourselves an absolutely ruddy, marvellous weekend. Cheers everyone, love you!